I've spent over 10,000 hours designing and overseeing high converting websites for hundreds of clients in the last 15 years. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly the 3 things that separate a website that wins customers from one that chases them away. So if you're tired of watching tutorials from people who just learned web design last month, this one's for you. Now, the first thing every great website gets right is something that most people take for granted. And it's a thing that I see fail more consistently than anything else, even on websites that look premium. See, most companies assume that their homepage is polished, so visitors will naturally figure out what they do and who it's for. But think about what it's actually like to land on a website you've never seen before. You have no context, no patience, and a back button that's one click away, which is exactly why the first job of your homepage is to orient. Within the first few seconds of landing, a visitor needs to know exactly what you do, who it's for, and why it matters. If that's missing, everything else on the page becomes irrelevant because the visitor's already left. Now, a great example of a SaaS company that gets this right is Stripe. Check out their homepage here. Their hero section opens up with financial infrastructure to grow your revenue. That's what they do in clear, specific terms. It's almost hard to read and not know what they do, which is exactly why it makes it so powerful, because you can be on this page for just a matter of seconds and have a clear understanding of what their solution does. But it gets even more clear because the very next line explains what that actually means and who it's built for in plain language. So even if you still have some lingering questions, they're answering them directly in the hero section of the website. Then there's the CTA right below that, so there's zero confusion about what to do next. And that's exactly what you need to make clear if you want to improve your own website. You land on the site and immediately know what they do, who it's for, and what steps you need to take. Now, compare that to most sites I see consistently. Hero sections that use vague descriptions, no clear CTA, that's all it does is confuse people, and they leave soon after because not every visitor comes to your website and knows what you do. In fact, most of them probably don't. So if it's not clear within those first 3 to 5 seconds, you'll actually never see them again. Now that we've covered orientation, the second element is something that trips up even sites that get the hero right. See, companies already have all the right content somewhere on their page. They hit pain points, explain their product, display a few testimonials, and then have a CTA somewhere. But it's rare that those elements are actually in the right order, and that matters. Visitors move through a website in sequence from top to bottom, and if that doesn't clearly lead them from problem to promise to proof and then to action, they may not actually ever click and convert. So instead of thinking about your website as a collection of sections, think of it as a guided conversation. A good salesperson doesn't walk into a room and open with a pitch. They acknowledge where the buyer is, build a case, and why that problem matters, so the solution is credible, and then ask a question that brings them to the next step. Your website needs to do the exact same thing. One of the examples I always point to for this is Typeform. Their hero opens up with, "The form is only the beginning." Most people already know what Typeform does when they visit, but they're wondering, is this just an easy way to make an online form, and why can't I do that for myself? So hinting that the product can do more opens up the question, what else are online forms capable of doing for me? That's the problem, or in this case, a question. Next is the promise, a line that clearly explains what Typeform makes possible. Then as you move down the page, you come across more of their features where the problem is reinforced. Build forms at the drop of a prompt, analyze customer data with precision, act on data with automatic AI workflows. They're giving you a clear idea of what they can do for you, all naturally leading to proof. On top of their big claim that they're trusted by 95% of Fortune 500 companies, they also display highly specific testimonials related to the product use cases. That's the proof. By this point, visitors are convinced that Typeform has covered all their bases, which means it's the perfect time to hit them with the CTA, which is exactly what the website does. Problem, promise, proof, action, all in perfect order. That's the content hierarchy you need to follow if you want your visitors to actually reach the CTA, convinced that you're the right choice. And finally, that brings us to the third principle, because even if you follow the format I've described perfectly, there's still one thing standing between your visitor and a book call. You see, by the time someone reaches your proof section, they're not just looking for reassurance that you're good at what you do. They want to also know that whatever you're selling them is going to work for them specifically. Maybe they're wondering whether you've worked with companies that look like theirs. Maybe they've hired someone before, but it didn't work out. Now, they need to see that other people in a similar situation got an actual result before they believe it's possible for them. And that's exactly why a logo bar or a quick 5-star review just isn't enough, because generic proof doesn't answer the specific doubt that's sitting in your buyer's head, which means if you don't map out your proof to the real fears your buyer has, all these logos just look impressive but don't actually do anything. They don't remove the objection, so what's the right way to go about this? One good example I've come across is Vrike. Every testimonial on their site names a specific company, person they worked with, and their title. Then they lead with tangible descriptions of what their product did and not just talking it up. Sony Pictures, 40% less time to deliver projects, 90% reduction in emails. Calexis, every week I can do that faster because we automate everything. Texas Rangers, we start every week by using our dashboards. It sets the bar for what we have to prioritize. They've chosen a variation of companies that speak to all their ideal buyers and given real examples of what their product does, which means people think, oh, this works for a media company just like ours. It's probably worth it. That's what proof against doubt actually looks like. Not just vague promises that you're credible or that people like what your product does, but evidence that speaks to the fear of or objection that buyers have once they've gone through everything else. So that's exactly what separates a website from one that actually drives sales from one that just looks good. And I'd argue that the most important point of having all this is clear messaging hierarchy. It's by far the most common strategy I see in high converting homepages every day. And the origin of this hierarchy is actually quite interesting because it's something that Alex Hormozi talks about a lot when it comes to sales. So if you'd like to see exactly how Hormozi explains it and how it applies to your homepage in more detail, watch this video next. I'll see you there.